In April 2026, Blake Lively put a number on what she said a public smear campaign had cost her. That number was $290 million. Her own estimated net worth is around $30 million. So she was asking a jury for close to 10 times the entire fortune she had built across 2 decades of acting, 2 beverage companies, and 1 hair care line. 1 month later, the case was over, and according to the settlement filed in federal court, she walked away without a single dollar. But the strangest part isn't the zero. It's what the court records show about the businesses she said were destroyed, because 2 of them were already dying long before any smear campaign started, from decisions she made herself. We traced every dollar through the federal court filings, the Securities and Exchange Commission records, and the trade reporting from Puck and Women's Wear Daily. This is the story those documents actually tell. The story starts in August 2024. That summer, a hair care brand launched at Target under the name Blake Brown, built as a joint venture with an Italian beauty incubator called Give Back Beauty. The products sat on the shelf between $19 and $25, and the launch was, by one measure, historic. In her own court filing, Lively's lawyers described it as Target's largest hair care launch on record. Women's Wear Daily reported that the brand generated $16 million in what the industry calls media impact value in its first week alone. That is a measure of buzz, of press and social media attention, rather than money in the register. But the sales looked strong, too. According to Puck, the brand pulled in close to $5 million in its first 3.5 weeks. For any beauty launch, celebrity attached or not, that is a serious opening. Then the floor gave out. 2 internal Target sources told Puck that weekly sales of Blake Brown dropped more than 87% between August 11th, when they peaked, and mid-September. In the space of about a month, the brand fell from a record-breaking debut to a product almost nobody was picking up off the shelf. The shampoo that had sold out in stores was suddenly sitting there, marked down and untouched. Lively's lawyers had a specific explanation for that cliff. In their filing, they argued that a sudden negative media campaign had depressed the brand's retail sales by somewhere between 56% and 78%. And they leaned on the fact that the products had scored well in consumer testing before launch, to argue the problem was the brand's reputation and not the quality of what was in the bottle. That distinction matters, because plenty of shoppers online were saying the opposite, that they had tried it and simply were not impressed. We cannot verify those product complaints at scale, so we flag them as what they are, scattered reviews. But the reputation versus product question sits at the center of everything that follows. By the spring of 2025, whatever the cause, the numbers were brutal. A person close to Target told Puck the brand would do under $15 million in total sales for the year. Their exact words were that it went from a $100 million brand to a $15 million brand. And by 2026, Puck reported the line was in its words, circling the drain, with its Italian operating partner now looking for a way out of the whole thing. That partner deal matters more than it sounds. Give Back Beauty is the company that actually manufactures the brand and runs it day to day. Lively supplies the name and the face. So when the reporting says the Italian side wants out, it means the people doing the real work of keeping the brand alive have decided it is no longer worth the trouble. A celebrity can relaunch, rebrand, or wait out a rough news cycle. But a brand whose operating partner is heading for the door is running on borrowed time. Because without anyone to make the product and manage the shelves, a celebrity label is finished no matter whose face is on it. So one pillar of the empire was already coming apart. But the hair care line was only half of what Lively had built. and the other half had a quieter problem that had nothing to do with a smear campaign at all. The other half was alcohol, or at least the idea of it. In 2021, she launched a line of non-alcoholic mixers called Betty Buzz, and in 2023, she added a range of canned cocktails called Betty Booze. On the surface, this was the classic celebrity play. Put your name on a bottle, ride the fame, take the margin. Look closer at who actually owned it, though. Both brands sat inside a company called Betty B Holdings, and the chairman of that holding company had co-founded a firm called Davos Brands. Davos Brands is the same house that once partnered with Ryan Reynolds to build aviation gin. So the self-made beverage empire ran straight through the same network that built her husband's liquor business. In practice, it was a brand license, with the company underneath handling the manufacturing and the operations, while Lively supplied the name and the fame. Keep that pattern in mind, because it repeats across almost everything she owns, from the drinks to the hair care. Her fame opens the door, but the companies doing the real manufacturing and operating almost always belong to someone else. The drinks did have real early traction. Court documents reported by the trade press say Betty Buzz sold more than 5 million bottles in its first year, and it landed placements on British Airways and in restaurant chains. But two problems followed it around. The first was price. A 12-pack ran close to $30, which is a lot to ask for flavored soda water in a market stuffed with cheaper options. The second was the name. A brand called Betty Buzz, sitting on the shelf right next to a brand called Betty Booze, left a lot of shoppers genuinely unsure whether they were buying alcohol or not. Then the promotion went quiet. According to reporting that cited court documents circulated online, the brand's long-term profitability was questioned inside a management meeting in 2024. And by the following year, Betty Buzz was reportedly wound down, its purchase links no longer working. Lively's team never publicly confirmed that, so we hold it as reported, not settled. Betty Booze kept rolling out new canned cocktails and holiday tie-ins even as its sister brand faded. But the repeat buyers a beverage brand lives or dies on never really showed up in the numbers. When her lawyers eventually itemized the damage from the whole affair, they put the combined loss for both drink brands at $22 million. So before any smear campaign, one brand was cratering at Target, and another was being questioned in its own boardroom. Which brings us to the decision that ties all of it together, because it landed at the exact moment both brands needed their founder the most. That moment was the summer of 2024, and the press tour for the film It Ends With Us. The movie is about domestic violence. Lively's public messaging pointed somewhere very different, toward florals, toward her hair care line, toward her drinks, with a now famous instruction to grab your friends and wear your florals. To a lot of viewers, and to a lot of domestic violence survivors, it read as tone deaf, and the backlash was immediate. Her own lawsuit adds a strange wrinkle here. In the filing, her team says the studio's own marketing plan directed the cast to focus on strength and resilience, and to frame the film as a story of hope rather than a story about abuse. So there is a real argument that the tone came from the top, but it was Lively out front selling it, and there was more. The promotional push put her at the center of everything, while her co-star and director was pushed to the edges, right down to a poster where she stood in front of a wall of flowers and he was barely there. For a film about domestic violence, sold by its female lead as a floral girls' night, the disconnect was hard to miss, and the internet did not miss it. The film itself was a commercial success. It cost around $25 million to make and grossed roughly $346 million worldwide. An unsealed draft of her contract shows a base salary of about $1.75 million for roughly 6 weeks of work, with bonuses tied to how the film performed. On paper, the movie worked, and it worked well. But the same press cycle that made the movie a hit turned the public against the woman selling it. And here is the detail that decides the whole money question. As the backlash built, Lively went dark on social media, right as Blake Brown was arriving on Target shelves for the very first time. A founder-led brand needs the founder loudest during its launch window. That is the entire model. Hers went silent in exactly that window. This is the hinge of her lawsuit. She says a coordinated smear campaign destroyed her businesses. The reporting shows a brand that launched into a press disaster its own founder helped create, and then stopped promoting itself. Those are two very different explanations for the same sales cliff. And because the case settled, a jury never got to decide which one was true. And that weakness is not unique to her. It is built into the whole celebrity brand model. When the product is really just the founder's name and face, there is no wall between the person and the business. The moment the public sours on the person, the revenue follows right behind, because there was never much underneath the fame holding it up. Across the industry, the very same collapse was unfolding in real time. The makeup artist Pat McGrath watched her once billion-dollar label file for bankruptcy, and Gwen Stefani's beauty line quietly vanished from shelves. Blake Brown fit that pattern exactly. A fragile model, a terrible moment, and a founder whose own choices deepened the damage. If you are the kind of person who would rather see the filings than the headlines, this is the channel for exactly that. We take one big celebrity number every week and trace it back to the documents underneath. Subscribe, and the next one lands in your feed. Now, when the lawyers finally put a dollar figure on all of this, they reached for a method most people have never heard of. A method that can turn 3 ordinary words into tens of millions of dollars. Here is how the $290 million claim was actually built, because it was never one number. It was a stack of them, and once you separate the layers, you can see exactly what each one was designed to do. The first layer was reputation. Her legal team claimed roughly $36 to $40 million in damage tied to 3 specific phrases: mean girl, bully, and tone deaf. Her own expert, a marketing professor at Northwestern, calculated that those 3 phrases generated about 176 million online impressions during the alleged campaign, then assigned a dollar value to every single impression. That is the machinery that turns 3 words into $40 million. The second layer added roughly $24 million more, calculated the exact same way, but applied to public statements made by the opposing lawyer during the case itself. Those statements, her expert estimated, generated another 117 million impressions. Then came the lost income claim. Between $34 and $88 million in acting work, she says she did not get across a 5-year window. And then the businesses, the drinks, and the hair care together, claimed at anywhere from $40 to $143 million in lost profit. The smallest line on the entire filing, almost an afterthought, was pain and suffering, at $250,000 to $400,000. Now that impressions method is worth sitting with, because it is doing something unusual. An impression is just a view. It counts how many times a phrase crossed somebody's screen. It does not measure whether anyone believed it, acted on it, or ever thought about it again. Turning raw views into a precise dollar figure is a genuinely aggressive theory of harm, and the other side attacked it as exactly that, a number inflated to anchor the whole case. If a jury had accepted it, the effect would have run well past this one trial. It would have handed every future celebrity plaintiff a formula for converting online chatter into a 9-figure claim. And here is the contradiction, sitting right in the middle of it. While she was asking a jury for close to $300 million, her lawyers filed a separate motion asking the judge to keep that same jury from ever hearing how much she and Reynolds are actually worth. Public estimates put the couple at around $380 million combined. So the plaintiff was demanding a fortune while asking the court to hide the fact that she already has one. There is a real legal logic to this, to be fair. Juries reliably award less to plaintiffs they see as already wealthy, and net worth is technically irrelevant to whether retaliation happened. But put the two motions side by side, and the strategy is impossible to miss. The whole point was to inflate the number the jury would hear, while keeping out the one figure that made that demand look ridiculous. For a sense of how these claims actually pay out when they do go the distance, the closest recent comparison is the Depp and Heard trial, where the final award came in at a small fraction of the headline demand. Even in a clear win, the real money is usually a sliver of the number in the filing. The wreckage also spread to people who never signed up for any of it. Taylor Swift, a close friend of Lively's, got pulled in when private text messages between the two were unsealed, and Baldoni's team subpoenaed her. In those messages, Lively mocked her director and likened herself to a queen with dragons, lines that did her no favors the moment they went public. Swift's spokesperson dismissed the subpoena as an attempt to manufacture tabloid clickbait instead of focusing on the facts. She was never a party to the case, yet for a stretch her name rode along on every headline about it. Which is what makes the ending of this case so strange. It never reached a jury at all. On April 2nd, 2026, a federal judge issued a 152-page ruling that dismissed 10 of Lively's 13 claims, including every harassment claim. The judge found that she was an independent contractor rather than an employee, which took the workplace harassment statute off the table, and held that the relevant California law did not reach conduct on a production filmed largely on the East Coast. Only 3 claims survived that ruling: breach of contract, retaliation, and aiding and abetting retaliation. Then in early May, just days before the trial was set to begin, both sides settled. And according to the filing from the defense, Lively dropped her 3 remaining claims, in their words, without the Wayfarer defendants paying a cent. The plaintiff, who had demanded nearly $300 million, received nothing at all from the settlement. A source close to her told People that for Lively, the case was never about the money. It was about exposing bad actors. There was one more move, and it is the only place any money changes hands at all. In June, the judge ruled that Lively was entitled to have her attorney's fees covered, but not for her own case. Only for the cost of defeating a separate $400 million countersuit that Justin Baldoni had filed against her, and then lost. The judge also denied her request for triple and punitive damages. So at the end of June, her lawyers filed for about $8 million in fees, with billing rates that ran as high as $2,187 an hour. The other side is now fighting even that amount, arguing she never provided the billing statements to justify it. So add it all up. The woman who stood in front of a court and claimed a smear campaign had cost her nearly $300 million, walked out of that settlement with nothing. And her only possible recovery is a contested $8 million fee award for a claim that was never even about her own damages. And the money behind her was cracking too. In the fiscal year that ended in June 2025, the drinks giant Diageo wrote down Reynolds Aviation Gin by $231 million, cutting the brand's recoverable value to just $51 million, and closing its Portland distillery for good. That is not gossip, and it is not an estimate. That is a hard number in a filing with federal regulators. Even the single strongest asset in the household took a real, documented blow. None of this left Lively ruined, and it is worth being clear about that. Her acting career is intact. The couple's real wealth is built mostly on Reynolds' businesses rather than her own. And the marriage, publicly at least, held together through the whole thing. But the specific ventures she pointed to in that courtroom, the ones she swore a campaign had destroyed, tell a harder story than the lawsuit did. because that is where we end up, back with the businesses that were supposedly taken from her. Blake Brown, once talked about as a $100 million brand, is now valued at around $15 million, with its Italian partner hunting for the exit. Betty Buzz is reportedly gone. The giant lawsuit produced nothing, and two of the ventures she said a smear campaign had stolen were already failing on their own, from her own launch, her own prices, and her own silence during the one window that actually mattered. The court records do not show an empire that was stolen from her. They show one that was already coming apart before the cameras ever turned on it. If you want to see what happened when the luxury giant LVMH handed Rihanna $30 million to build a fashion line and got almost nothing back in return, that breakdown is on screen right now.